It hurts when people come up and ask me, how does it feel to be the last one? That's a hard question to answer.
Hi, Auntie.
Hi, sweetheart.
Someone's here to see you.
Oh, Marie. How very nice.
My Raven friend.
Oh, and you were a little girl then, weren't you?
Yes.
Oh.
The first time you come up, I think, is when I saw you, 1930.
1930, that's right.
In 1930, I was 12.
12 years old. Well, then look at this now. Oh,
I
ladies.
look forward to this day forever. I remember her sitting on the porch with my uncle, his wife.
It's a big day for me, I can assure you.
I guess they were getting history then.
It's a big day for me.
It's an honor for me, too.
Yeah. Now, I brought my little Raven sister, I brought you a little something, but please forgive me.
I will learn a little bit more from her.
One shouldn't give a gift that isn't properly wrapped.
Our people.
Oh.
It's hard for me to read books, so hearing it from her, will make me so much happier.
Where'd you find that at?
I've been looking and looking.
It's not easy to find them, is it?
Thank you.
You're more than welcome, dear. You're more than welcome.
We better go.
Oh, I'm so happy going back to Cordova, to my hometown, but, I'm kind of scared about the potlatch. I don't know what a potlatch is supposed to be like. And when I was growing up, we never had a potlatch. I hope and pray I do right.
Here you go, 5 tickets. Okay, thanks. And this is 5 passenger, 2 cars.
I think I can see a little bit of what Marie's going through and all the stresses of being sort of a central figure in all this. I think it's very overwhelming for everyone.
Last year, the bones of a 600-year-old Eyak man were returned from the Smithsonian. And this potlatch in particular is really about
5 days ago.
the revival of the community, the Eyak community, and celebration of the return of these bones.
Beautiful stuff over here.
We have nothing.
Wait until you see a big hill of it.
There's a sadness there that comes along with that. It's a feeling of not having anything in terms of historical artifacts, losing the language, with my aunt being the last speaker. So there's a feeling of desperation. I guess this is the last attempt to recover what has been dying. Marie's going to be able to see a lot of her old friends.
What is really neat about this is her being able to connect with Frederica de Laguna. If it wasn't for Freddie's field work in anthropology here with the Eyaks, we wouldn't have this rich documentation of our history.
What's really exciting is that Michael Krause is going to be coming down from Fairbanks, and he's the only other person on Earth that speaks Eyak, and so Marie will get to speak Eyak with him, that's pretty neat. Michael Krause is the linguist who actually studied Eyak as a young man and then wrote a dictionary. Without that, we really wouldn't have very much documented on the language. We wouldn't have anything documented.
It's hard for me to even fathom living in such an incredible place. You have the mountains and the sea and the rivers and the glaciers. I think back about what it must have been like before outside peoples came in, and the beauty of it and the spirituality of it. And then I look at the condition today of the people, and it's devastating.
You look like you're ready for potlatch.
There's a lot of different people that are going to come and help us out. The Chitna dancers are coming down, Sleeping Lady dancers. Some of the elders, we're pretty lost as to how to run a potlatch and so on. So we need a lot of help from a lot of people on the outside.
KLAM in Cordova, your hometown voice in Prince William Sound. J.R. Lewis here, glad to be with you on this beautiful morning, and it's going to stay that way too. Partly cloudy today, high around 70. Great day to set up a great event, the first potlatch for our Eyak people in like 80 years, I think, going on at the Old Orca Cannery tonight. We'll have details coming up on the morning show along with more trivia. And a look at the calendar. Stay tuned.
Talking our own language. Sometimes we had to go out in the woods and get our own switch, and they'd switch us with it. Or either take a ruler and hit our hand. And I don't mean little love pats. I mean real hurting.
After school, I'd go home, and Mom and Dad always talked our language. If it wasn't for that, I would not know any of my language.
My Eyak name is Udach Gokhaa'ach, which means a voice that draws you. Sometimes when you're out in the woods, you hear something, a little bird that you never heard before. Naturally, you're going to go toward it and see what bird that is. That's the voice that draws you.
Well, Marie, that was
School's out.
School's out. Yeah. Well, did you come and have recess over here then on the ballpark?
Oh, we had wonderful time.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, we played all around there on the stands and everything. So
if I can go back to my childhood and know what I know now,
I'm glad.
Okay.
I'm glad I caught you. And I'm glad we were friends.
It'd be wonderful. I'd give anything to turn the time back. I think back to our own village, our little old community there. Especially before I had to start going to school. Those are the times that was wonderful.
This is the original Eyak Indian gravestone.
We were just never fighters. We don't like to fight. It hurts me on what I have to do now in order to get our ancestral grounds and everything back.
And looking across there really makes me sad. Where that last trailer is, is where our house used to be. And this was a sad moment, and yet it was a happy moment.
Who was he, Marie?
That we don't know.
Oh, you don't?
I got a vision night before we were supposed to rebury him. That he was a healer in his time. And I believe the problems we're having now, God left him there for the time when we was going to need him. So he has come back to heal the Indian people.
Wonderful. Just wonderful. Well, I think it's time that I better get home.
I got to hold you, dear.
Yeah, okay, whatever. Whatever, we'll go down together. We'd come down here. And Mrs. Buell from down Mark? She knows
Leslie Lewis here with your KLAM Weather Watch. Today, occasional rain and light wind, a high of 58. Tonight, a 90% chance of occasional rain, and tomorrow too, by the way. Southwest winds to 10 miles an hour, a low of 50, and a high near 58. Prince William Sound, south winds to 10 knots, increasing to southwest 15, seas to 3 feet. And the outlook.
I think all my life I really wanted to know where I was from, who I was related to, what that meant. When I got into college, I decided that I was going to find out. Did some research in some libraries, knew the word Eyak, found the book that was written by Frederica de Laguna, wrote to her publisher, they forwarded the letter, and she was the one actually that told me who my grandmother was. And so I came back here and found Sophie. It was about 20 years ago.
Marie was my grandmother's sister. Grandma Sophie was married to William Sato. He was about 40 years old. She was about 13. And apparently it was some sort of a deal. She had my Uncle Bill at 14, and then my mother, I think, at 15. And what I heard from Sophie herself was she decided when she turned 18, and she would divorce. For some reason, whatever reason, he went and took the kids with him to Seward, where he started a potato chip business. World War II started, the relocation camps were set up, and someone came and got the kids. Somewhere along the line, my mother came back when she was pregnant with me. I really don't think my birth mom knew what to do at that point. She was pretty desperate and was staying with my grandma Sophie and was wondering if that was the right place for me. She decided for whatever reason to go up and stay in the church, and did stay in the attic of the Baptist church with me, and made a decision to have me adopted because of her circumstances. So the minister and his wife offered to adopt me. I don't know much. I've never met her. I've sent a couple of letters, and I've sent pictures of myself, actually. And I've never gotten an answer. I think it's just really difficult for her. It's just really painful. 2.5 years ago when I came back, and Sophie was quite ill, I came back for 3 weeks and took a look around and realized that there were some serious things going on here in terms of the Eyak culture and the language. But this is Sophie, yeah. And I guess my Aunt Faye and her husband brought the stones from the glacier.
Last September, I basically packed up my stuff and left everything behind. I'd been living there in San Francisco for 17 years, but decided this was important enough and personally important enough for me to come up here and explore what was going on.
Now it looks like the ground is sort of shifted. And
when I first came up here, I think I had this romantic vision of returning to the place of my birth and helping to rebuild some of these things that were going under. But it's been, in some ways, it's been a pretty painful journey, because I've come back and I've seen some of the things that have gone on, the depression and the alcohol and disillusionment of the people, and it's been real hard to see that. It's been really painful.
I was there in 1930. It was just by chance that we came to Cordova. I picked it because it was the first port in Prince William Sound on the map that the steamship company would come to. We had our outboard motor, but we needed a skiff to get around if we were going to look for archaeological sites. I was told that the marshal had thrown a bootlegger into jail, and the bootlegger's skiff was not being used. Well, the marshal then began talking to me about the natives here. He said, you know, there are different kinds here in town. So there are these Aleuts, these Chugach out here, and down over towards southeast, he said, they're the Tlingit Indians. They come up in here. But he said there's another group that live right here, and they're a different breed of cat altogether. That was his expression, a different breed of cat altogether. They're the Eyak. It was a thrilling discovery to find that we'd stumbled upon a group of people who were not, as the official handbooks had classified them. In 1930, I was able to gather a small vocabulary. In 1933, when I came back with Kai Burkett Smith of the Danish National Museum, we gathered a much larger vocabulary. The Eyak were originally Indians living in the interior of Alaska. They had gone up the tributaries of the Copper River and up over the glaciers and down to the coast, this rugged coast of the Gulf of Alaska. Eyak developed their own language and their own way of life. And they were hunters of seals, very skilled hunters of seals. They made special canoes for hunting in the icy waters. In the latter part of the 19th century, prospectors began to discover gold and oil in Eyak country, and they swarmed in. After them came the fishing industry. It is tragic to read the government reports on the fisheries of Alaska about the turn of the century, when boats came in so loaded with fish that they often had to throw the catch overboard to keep the boat from sinking. Up the Copper River, there were great deposits of copper ore, and the Eyak Indians at the mouth of the Copper River were middlemen in the trade in native copper. The copper became of interest to Americans when an Indian was induced to lead a mining man up to the source of the copper. And from there on, the boom was on. To get the copper ore out, they had to build a railway up the Copper River, where they've located this mine, the Kennecott mine. We got so much wealth, copper wealth from it. Earlier, local Indians had been wealthy because they controlled the copper and the copper trade. The discovery of copper and the building of the railroad was almost the last straw for the Eyak, because the railway was built right through their country. When I came in 1930, they were living in what I felt was abject poverty on the outskirts of Cordova. I saw them living in shacks pieced together with bits of tin and tar paper loose, and it was very sad to see them in that condition. The people who were building the railway were really ruthless in their treatment of the natives. They managed to get the land from all the Indians except for one old woman who refused to move. And they were determined to get her out, so they saw to it that she was unable to buy any coal for her stove during the winter. And one day when she went out to look for wood, they came with a bulldozer and bulldozed down her house with everything in it, leaving her completely destitute. This is a poem that I wrote about the Eyak and the Copper River. They were often on my mind. On Copper River flats, I smell the salty stench of drying seaweed. My bare toes clutch cold wetness, reluctant silt, stretching the haze of miles. My tracks dissolve in dimpled pools, as the lines once gouged by your canoes, dragged by brown arms, returning potlatch proud, the rising tides efface.
Neither of us had any chance to talk any Eyak to anybody for years and years and years. For many years, it was a language that I personally, literally obsessed with. I grew up as a minority person and member of a minority group who have been through thousands of years, gained a lot of expertise in the art of survival as a minority, namely the Jews. You know who you are, to know where you come from, in order to know what you are and where you might go. It's a survival skill that Alaska Native people were systematically deprived of. I wasn't ready for that.
The sound of the carillon ringing through the fall air welcomes you to the campus at College, Alaska.
During the fall of 1960, I found out about it. The University of Alaska, Fairbanks, needing someone to start a linguistics program and to teach French, and perhaps even to support or to initiate research into Alaska's disappearing native languages.
A treasure house of all things Alaskan, visited by thousands of tourists each year.
During the 60s, the work of developing writing systems and school books for languages which were forbidden in the schools was a kind of an underground movement that we established at the University of Alaska Fairbanks in the process of developing a curriculum in a college curriculum in teaching Alaskan Yupik, for example.
You're living next door to probably the largest Eskimo archaeological collection in the whole world. The door is open to the study of the complex but fascinating Eskimo language.
Now your word for paper.
Kalikak.
Say it once more.
Kalikak.
Kalikak. Now what word do you use for Canadian geese?
Lugget.
Lugget. Now what is the word for a lantern?
No. I got all three answers.
Marie was, in some ways, gave me my introduction to Eyak, in part because she was the youngest speaker of the language. Since the 1970s, there wasn't much more that could be done with it. And now it's just a language of memory. It's down there somewhere deep inside your head. Scar Stevens Lena. I've defined 20 languages in Alaska. Eyak, barring miraculous, unforeseen circumstances, will be the first to go? Or will it? Or should it? Can we afford to let it? If it begins with Eyak, who's next? Where will it stop?
Last year, we had a ceremony down here at the same spot in honor of an Eyak elder that was returned from the Smithsonian that was in storage for about 60 years. And this day was a very big day for the Eyak people because it was the first piece of land that we were able to have a repatriation on. It was the first time that we had a gathering of the people. We all have to come together and find that the Eyak people do have a right to exist. They do have a right to their language. They do have a right to their own land. And they have a right to exist here and add and make a contribution to humanity. And we feel that if everyone would just let us be Eyaks and let us be who we are and accept us for that, that we can then start the healing process.
Marie is not alone. There are many such people who are the last of their own kind, the last who can speak their own language. On this earth there are already many of such people, too many, who are the last of their own kind. Let not more peoples disappear. Let us not keep on destroying this world. Let us not.
Is there anybody else who would like to say anything?
Sayano, ano on Hajafshasino. Itata Kasuta Ohaka in Ano the who used the heart of Scott. Kazuta is like that than the inno. All gotcha. Amen.
Start a new era.
1, 2, 3. 3, 2, 1, test.
It's pretty amazing that we're actually in the same place, trying to achieve the same goal. You know, what I'm looking for personally is some spiritual unity of some sort, and I really don't know what's going to happen. I know it's going to be powerful. Whatever's going to happen is going to be very powerful. It seems like being in the middle of this tornado.
I'm looking for happiness. I want everybody to have a good time. this is what I'd like to see one more time before I go, is people loving one another and being together again.
May the Lord give you many years as chief of the Eyak tribe. It is truly an honor to be the chief.
And this is my dream coming true.
Where is Frederica and Dr. Krause? The Eyak people are really excited to have you show up to our first potlatch in 80-some years.
The anthropologist always grows along with the people he studies. So I owe a great deal of myself to the people who were living here in the 1930s when I first came. And it's curious to come back towards the end of one's life. It's like going around in a circle. You come back where you began. In some ways it makes me feel very old, and that's no fun. But in other ways, I'm reliving my youth. And I'll tell you, when the rain is battering on the tin roof of the cannery, as it is during the potlatch, I keep thinking, thank goodness I'm not out in a tent the way I was in 1930. I'm very much moved by the obvious sincerity and the depth of feeling of these people in their struggles for recognition as Eyaks, as a people in their own right, a people who've been forgotten as separate.
Maria is going to go ahead and give these people their Eyak names. Okay, Pamela, will you please come forward?
Tepki. 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 Tepki.
Ramona?
Kuka.
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 As the Sleeping Lady dancers were singing, I had a vision. I've never heard these kind of songs before, and I've never been to anything like this, but when I heard that song that they sang, there was a longing in my heart last night. And when they sang it again today, I saw our ancestors waving farewell, farewell. They were saying. And I was just overcome with grief, and I just began to cry, because what we are doing here today, we are trying to preserve something, but we also have to come to grips with the reality of the loss. That there is a great loss, and what we are doing is good. And I am honored to be a part of this, but it also has to be coupled with the reality of the loss that we are experiencing at the same time.
Son, will you please step forward?
Ah.
this is splendid. This is new.
My son came up to me one day and asked me if he could go into the Eagle clan because he loved his grandfather so much that he thought that his grandfather is standing alone.
Marie Smith did something new in giving the names.
I am proud of him to love his grandpa so much. That is his grandpa's Indian name.
Come forth soon.
Jamachaki.
Jamachaki.
Jamachaki. Jamachaki. What Jamachaki means in Eyak is sometimes the elderly people, you hear this little bird out there, that would never shut up. Used to always give everybody a bad time. And since doing it in politics, he sounds just like that little bird.
Illegal? Jennifer, would you please come forward?
Kuchkalak, yes. Kuchkalak. Kuchkalak.
The hope lies in the children who have come to feel pride now in being Eyak. We must never think of the American Indians or any other group of people as blindly accepting what is imposed upon them or what is offered them in the way of an alien culture. There is always a choice. And the people, in choosing and in adapting what's offered, turn it into something of their own. We don't know what form this Eyak nationality will take in the future. It won't be the same as the old. It'll be something new, but it will also be distinctively Eyak. I wish that I could come back in another 20 years or so, or even in 5 years, and see what's happening, because I have great faith in the children and the young people and the younger adults who are now becoming active. I think we're going to see the rebirth of a people.
Sakakayu al ita wakle laika wa